This is the third section of the Arcole battle, and I'll continue it here. These are my units that have crossed the bridge and have occupied this ridge here. Let me give you a better look at it. And what I've been able to do is to cross here and then occupy a position here. Back in this side of the battle, as I just showed you, I'm able to push one of my units here, and we're able to trap these few French units in the back. You can see that Trip Hammer's AI-controlled army is routing away because the AI can't control them very well. This puts us kind of in an interesting position strategically. We have beaten off we're able to capture these French units here, and Hitsu has his units coming back down this direction. It's really important for us to do two things. The first is to create a front on this axis here to isolate these units so that they can't flank my position that's come across the bridge right here. The second thing is that if I can maintain this position, it will force Riscard to abandon his defense of the crossing for two reasons. A, because I'll be able to flank any units that are holding that crossing, and B, as you can see, I'm already moving my units this direction to get across the bridge here. So our big problem strategically right now is to prevent this group of French units from hurting my bridge force, and we need to buy a little time because Karlov's units are coming up this direction. From an army strength perspective right now, there's only the two French players left on the opposing team, Hitsu and Riscard, and I'm not really sure whose units are exactly whose, but they're all there. I have virtually all of my infantry intact, maybe minus 1 or 2 units to fight them off with, and then Karlov has, I believe, 3 infantry units left that he's able to put into this stage of the battle. So in the early part of the game, it looked like we had done some really good things to gain some ground, and in the middle part of the game, those gains were reversed as 2 of our players dropped and the AI took control of them. And so the real question for the opponents right now that we're able to pose is, it does seem pretty likely that we're going to be able to establish a line sort of on this axis here and permanently control this crossing. And the real question is, what are they going to do after that? What are they going to do? Well, the correct answer and the answer that they wound up taking is that they really need to group forces. These are Hitsu's units here, and then Riscard has a big group of units here. What they're going to do is pull back into this section of the map and form a new defensive line. And I'd never, these are Riscard's troops starting to move here. I'd never looked at this section of the map, but what they're going to do is pull back to this area right here. Oh, excuse me. And there's a pretty substantial ridge right here, and what they're going to do is form a defensive line on top of it. And I never looked at this part of the map before; it never had really been relevant. But that ridge is really quite steep. Frankly, it resembles the ridge on Waterloo. And a really good defensive position. There's a really steep rise right there that'll give them a good elevation advantage. Moreover, the crown of this hill is steep enough, I don't know if you can look at that, but it's really hard to get a good angle of fire or a good line of sight up the ridge. You really have to walk all the way on top of it to be able to return fire, which means that the defender is certainly going to get the first volley and certainly going to have an accuracy and range advantage. So that's kind of going to be interesting. You can see as we fill out our line on this section of the map that between Karlov and I, we have a fair fight here. Those lines are pretty stable. And then over on Riscard's end, it's pretty evident that I'm going to be able to outnumber him between these two forces in a classic pincher movement, which means that his control of this ford here is not tenable. He's going to have to withdraw from there. And that is what Riscard and Hitsu start to do right here. And you can see that Riscard flirts with the idea of moving some of his volts this direction to protect against my units here. But it's going to be pretty evident that as I make this other movement across, that he doesn't really, he can't hold both areas at once. So he makes what is, the wise decision, and they're both going to pull back to form that new defensive line way back there. A few interesting notes. The first is earlier in the game I joked that I wasn't going to get a single kill in this game because my army wasn't going to be needed, but it turns out that right now that My army's pretty much all we've got left. Karlov has fought just a brilliant game to get to the point where he's at. Karlov started this game way back here, and he has had to fight all the way across this crossing, all the way across the map. Herculean effort, and he's fighting against his third opponent right now. I mean, Hitsu represents the third different opponent that he's having to fight against, so... we do have a couple of his line units left. These are SK's AI running around. He has, I think, these 2 line units still running around doing stupid shit. And in a minute, as I continue to advance this direction, Riskard's going to have to withdraw back to that other defensive line, and they're going to start right there. So I'm going to give you a little timeout and pick you up once these players have reformed on their new defensive line. At this point, my units have surrounded the hill that our opponents have occupied, but we were in an awkward position. We did have a bit of a manpower advantage. We do outnumber them a bit, enough so that I am able to surround the hill. But we had sort of a quality versus quantity problem, and Karlov and I really weren't sure what to do at this point. We actually dropped into a little private chat to talk about it. And Karlov's troops were pretty exhausted. They didn't have much ammunition left. I had a lot of my army left, but I had regular line GB foot. And between Riss and Hitsu, they had at this point 3 old guard and 3 young guard left. That's Karlov making his advance. And 2 of the infantry units that I had with me were militia. So it didn't seem terribly likely that maybe if we could get them into the flat part of the map, we might be able to fight them off. But it didn't seem with this grueling ridge line here that if they were going to stay on top of it, that we were going to be able to win. It just didn't seem that we were going to be able to make an assault up that hill. What we should have done better in this game, there's the red line, is that if we were... I don't know. We might have been able to creep up the red line and turn their flank that direction. Karlov is moving that way. I've got some infantry units moving that way. We might have exploited that a little bit better, but we weren't terribly confident about the ability to assault up the hill as against their very high quality opposition that they had left. And so the 2 of us talked about it for a while, and we kind of reached a conclusion, and then we jumped back in the other room, and we offered them a draw. We said straight up, we don't think we can assault up the hill and win, and we don't think that you can come off the hill and win. We think if you come off the hill that we'll win. So this is a very awkward situation, and so we want to formally offer you a draw. And the good sports, and we explained, the reason for that I just told you. And the good sports that they are, they refused our draw and said, no, we'll fight it out. But they had the, good sports personship that in a second they're actually going to come off the ridge a bit and kind of turn it into more of a fair fight that more or less disadvantaged them. And I really thought that was a nice gesture that they made. This in the middle, this is me moving up. And what I'm going to try to do is get my rifle units. I had a thought that maybe if I could run up kind of into the no man's land area, I could get Riskard to catch him maybe with fire at will turned on and get him to waste some of his ammunition. Riskard moves his volts down a little bit. I don't think I do terribly good casualties at them. I think he's going to have to pull them back here in a second. But we kind of reached this stalemate where they have occupied this hill. There isn't a whole lot that we can do about it. And they also have cav left, which is... There's only 14 men in the unit, but it's a pretty powerful tool at this stage in the game when units are depleted. A Lancer of 14 can rout a handful of line units if you're not real careful with them. And so I start advancing up the hill very cautiously and kind of staying out of range. I'm not really sure that was a good idea. It might not have been the best idea. Here comes the movement from these rifles that are moving up there. These rifles actually, I think I've been wishy-washy over the course of the commentary, but I think that these rifles performed very well for me over the course of the game. I don't think I handled them as delicately as I should have. But you can see that they both have gained chevrons. One of them has 2. And so I think that these rifle units actually performed quite well for me over the course of the game, which I was happy to see. I'm trying to do a little trick where I take shelter behind this house and catch Riscard to maybe shoot at the house. I don't think he's in range. Actually, those are Hitsu's units over there. I don't think they're in range. And here comes Riscard's assault down the hill. These fucking volts of his. I'll be real honest with you. I don't think I've ever developed such a personal degree of hatred for any of my opponent's individual units as I developed a degree of hatred for Riscard's volts in this game. They just frustrated me at every opportunity throughout this game. They prevented... I sat and stared at them for over an hour. I let them shoot at me for over an hour every time I tried to cross that damn fucking river, and they're still here shooting at me. And I just fucking hated them. I just hated them. They killed so many of my people. It's really atrocious. That was another... This is a little assault attempt at me. No, those are SK's still rogue AIs that are going in and soaking up bullets for us. So SK Marsh still contributing right there, even with his AI. And you can see that I respect the ability of him to come off the hill and fire straight down, so I have to retreat off of that area. Right about here, Hitsu makes a decision to get in for melee. And sorry, I've turned the graphics on to very high, so I have the smoke effects going on. And he's going to come down for a melee assault pretty soon. What we're able to do, however, to control this is we really outnumber this handful of units here, and so we're just able to form a really simple double line defense against that. I'll give you a good look at that here in a minute. But these units coming off the hill here, that's me kind of running away, trying to form up that double line with another unit coming into reserve. And if we're able to, this is a real fight to the death. I mean, I think that this part of the battle could have gone any way, like I thought that the balance of power was really even right here. I don't know how much ammunition these two guys had left. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that Carlo was pretty much out at this point. But when they come down for the melee charge, you can see this second ring of infantry units that I have there that I'm able to put a fire on them. Now, these units are going to take casualties away from us. These are all high-end units. These are all young guard. They're really good in melee. They're really high morale. But just by being patient and putting extra firepower on them, we're able to do some nice work against those units there. All across the line here, we have kind of a general firefight breaking out, and it's really just a question of endurance, like who can last the most. I'm finally starting to rout Riscard's light infantry. He has an old guard unit that's really healthy that comes down. The bright spots for us in this engagement are right here. I think we're going to win this shootout right here, and then as this melee attack on the right side develops, we're going to be able to get some pretty good value. We're actually, kind of willing right now to trade unit for unit, whatever it takes to get up this hill. At this point, every casualty counts. We really just need to get people dead, and a melee assault from them is probably not going to be overwhelming. So, I don't know. There's really not a good answer if you're the other team right now. You are kind of outnumbered. You're outgunned a little bit. So I don't know what the best answer was. But little by little, as every unit routes, it gets a little bit easier for us to get up the hill. As every unit routes, that gives us another little place to make angles against them, etc. So, it was a good effort. A good effort for them coming off the hill. You can see on the right side there that they did wind up routing the rest of Karlov's infantry, but those units took the French units that came down the hill with them. So that's a really good trade. And here you can see that we've routed the right, and I'm able to push up the hill, which will obviously let us flank these two units right there. And that's it, pretty much. I mean, this is your final look. Obviously, we've taken the hill on the right. We're able to move up, and these units here are going to put up a good fight. but we kind of got them made right there. And so this is, you know, you look at Arcole. It's a little town in northern Italy. If you've never been there, I bet it's beautiful. It's one of the little places I'd like to visit at some point in my life if I get the opportunity. I wonder if that bridge is still there. I wonder if it's still there or not. But this is a really neat map, and we just had a fabulous time playing this game. One of the things I really like about Napoleon, what kind of got me playing Napoleon in the first place, is I grew up playing the little tabletop, board games with the cardboard little unit pieces and everything. And the reason I really got into playing Napoleon is it was kind of a way to transition that onto the computer, which I thought was really cool, and handle everything automatically. But for a long time, I lost that aspect of the game. This game became more kind of like StarCraft to me, playing a lot of games on grassy flats. And I kind of like this game that we just played. It took us about an hour and a half or 2 hours to play this game, but this really represented for me a return to the roots of why I got into playing this game in the first place, which I thought was really cool. And we just had a great time kind of acting those games out, and it's a lot different sitting down to play a game of Napoleon and saying to yourself, wow, this might take an hour and a half. That's cool. I'm fine with that. So, get some friends and fire up a big 4v4 game and play it out. And I thought we had a really fun time, and everybody was really classy. Everybody stuck around to the end just to watch what happened. Even the players that were eliminated an hour ago were still watching the game just because they'd had so much invested in it. They wanted to see what happened, and that's pretty cool. So. Anyway, thank you for watching. Those are the final results, and I'll check you in the next video.